Hi everyone, it's John from ZonGuru, and I'm here in Los Angeles at the awesome Sycamore Tavern. And welcome to Amazon Seller Insights. This is a series where we interview sellers who are crushing it on Amazon, and we're just here to really learn from them, learn from their area of expertise, and get some inspiration to fuel our own Amazon business. And I'm here today with Kris Chin. So welcome, Kris.
Thank you.
And today we're diving deep into China. So we're going to be talking a lot about the China marketplace, get some insights around Chinese manufacturers, and just really understand that landscape, as well as talk about Chinese sellers, those sellers who are actually selling on Amazon, and what are the tips and tricks that they actually employ to compete on Amazon.com, and how can we learn from them, and how can we hopefully compete with them. So those are the two areas that we're going to look into today. And just to talk a little bit about Kris, I've known him for a few weeks now, and the thing about Kris is he seems to, over the last few years, find himself at the forefront of trends, global trends. And the reason he's been able to do that is he's willing to actually move to the source of that trend. So, you know, for a lot of the last few years, he's been living in China. He's been willing to live in different countries, learn cultures, learn the language, and really just form a network in those countries. And in particular, he's done it for China for the last while, but he's done it in a bunch of countries, and then brought that knowledge back to the USA, where he's obviously had a competitive advantage in an area of expertise which had helped him to be successful in business. Okay, so I thought like maybe the best place for you to kick off is give the guys here and everyone watching like a bit of a background on your last few years, and you know, how did you end up, you know, you were based in the US, you ended up living in China. You know, what was your journey, and how did you end up where you are today?
Actually, I've been in China, started a long time ago, like 20 years ago.
Wow.
I've been in China, yeah, but I've gone back and forth in the meantime. I've also lived in Japan and Korea, so all over basically Northeast Asia. And I also worked in corporate at DirecTV, bringing Chinese TV channels to the United States on the satellite platform.
Gotcha.
For the last 1.5 years, I've been in China developing the Amazon business, and my goal was I want to do a little bit different, because I did study all of what American and YouTube had to offer, a lot of the experts, you know, I had the software, but having a background in China and speaking Chinese, and also knowing that the Chinese are very successful on the platform, I wanted to go to China and figure out exactly what it is they're doing. So I think there's something that we can learn from them.
Gotcha.
Knowing what they're doing and where they're coming from and the advantages we have, you know, Amazon's getting more and more competitive.
Yeah.
So it can only help us to have that slight edge.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, you know, some of us have been to China, but a lot of us haven't. You know, tell me and tell us a little bit about the Chinese landscape from a manufacturing perspective, like the size, the scale, the different provinces, and how it kind of works from a manufacturing perspective.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a difficult question, but there are areas in China where they specialize in certain products. You know, in southern China, in Shenzhen, they do electronics. You know, Apple's there, and I mean, basically all of the components come from there. Dongguan and Guangzhou, they have textiles. Yiwu, they do a lot of, you know, the wholesaling, a lot of the cheaper kind of goods. So, in terms of scale, everything's made in China.
Yeah.
So you have big factories and you have small factories. Basically, you can find whatever you want in China. It's just, well, you have your niche and you have your particular segment that you're interested in. You need to research, figure out what the best way, where that area is.
Right.
And going a little bit further for advice, you know, my advice is, and what I always do is, you got to find the boss.
The boss. Okay,
yes.
Gotcha.
I mean, if there's anything, I think I see one person who's Chinese, you can agree, you know, you'll go through a maze before you got to find the right person to talk to.
Right.
Because unless you're talking to the boss, or at least the boss knows who you are, you're going to have a lot of difficulty, and you're not going to get the best price, and you're not going to have the best you're not going to get an ease of doing business in China.
Our normal strategies are, okay, great, we start looking for products. We find something we like. We go on Alibaba, or we fill out a brief. We get some sourcing agents or whatever. Like, what's the approach to finding the right manufacturer and finding the boss? Like, what are some of the strategies that you use?
Well, I've never been to the Canton Fair, and I've never used the Alibaba platform.
Wow.
I do go on Alibaba to look, but only to find the factory. And in China, they have other platforms that Chinese use, like 1688, which is Alibaba in Chinese, and 1688.com. It's Alibaba for Chinese. I really don't know how to explain it, but basically it's in Chinese. And
well, basically, if you're looking to get a product, you would go into 1688.
Well, there are a lot of small factories who are not on Alibaba because they don't have staff who speak English, who are going to do all of the stuff that they need to do to communicate with foreigners and to have. But they're all on 1688 because it's all Chinese. So it's a good way to find smaller factories, and the smaller factories are a lot easier to work with because they're more hungry for business, and they'll get lower MOQs, and you can reach the person in charge, which is the boss, more easily. So, but you got to be very careful. I mean, I'm going to tell you some things to help you out. Like, in China, there's some things that foreigners don't know. Like, there's different levels of product. A, B, C, D. I mean, all Chinese know this. What we see here in the United States is only A, actually, because it's already gone through some kind of quality control. Maybe some of the lower grades go to foreign countries, less developed countries, I should say. So, it's at least you got to be aware that if you're ordering something, ordering a sample, and then maybe they'll send you an A, and then when time to order, they'll send you a C. Or if it's an agent, they can make money by sending you a C or a D, and then they're gone, right? So there are all kind of like tricks and stuff that you should be aware of, or at least if you're having somebody help you, or even if you're working with an agent, which is fine, at least you should be discussing with them these issues, because they won't tell you.
Gotcha.
They won't tell you.
Yeah, so that's why inspections are key to make sure that your prototype is what you actually get when you run production, that it matches that. Okay, so if I don't speak Chinese, how would I actually go on to 1688 and at least start looking for products, maybe to find something that looks like it's a reasonable product? How would I go about doing that?
Okay, so assuming you already know what kind of product you're looking for, use Google Translate, translate it to Chinese, copy and paste it into 1688 and see what shows up.
Okay, cool.
Because and then just go through all the pages, and then at that very least you'll get an idea of what's available.
Gotcha.
Because definitely not everything's on Alibaba. There's a lot of stuff in China that are on other platforms like Taobao or some other platforms that actually could do well into Amazon.com or other markets, but you just don't know about them.
Gotcha.
Everybody's going to Jungle Scout, everybody's going to Alibaba, everybody's doing the same thing. At this stage of the game, you need to find something that gives you an edge.
Right. So that would be a start, but then I think knowing someone in China who could be a sourcing agent or someone on the ground, that would be the guy who would probably know the boss, right?
So they're very difficult things now. In China, as you know, there's a Great Wall, so the Great Wall, the Chinese cannot access a lot of websites just because Google is blocked, and then a lot of the websites are running on Google APIs and Google whatever. So there's like a gap in there, and if you have somebody who's an agent or a friend or whatever you're working with who can overcome that gap and communicate well and be able to maneuver through the computer websites and things, be able to source, be able to find the boss, be able to negotiate with the boss in a way that's Chinese. So my advice is find somebody like this who can find the boss and at least set up, even if it's a video conference once, okay, the boss knows who you are.
Okay, so let's switch gears now, because I know that we're going to have time for questions and we can come back to the Chinese market. But let's talk about this trend of Chinese Amazon sellers. So, in China, there's a lot of Chinese now who are really, they obviously can source their product pretty easily. They're right there, and they're distributing it and selling it on the .com platform. And traditionally, I think it's been easier to compete with them because there wasn't that much of a customer focus necessary or a brand focus, I would say, but a lot of them are starting to be better at that. So what are some of your insights around Chinese sellers who are selling on Amazon.com, and what are they doing that we can learn from, or maybe let's just start with like more of the insights around the mentality of a Chinese seller.
Well, Chinese traditionally they like buy sell. In Chinese, like, I don't know say it in English, but it's buy sell. So it's kind of like a wholesaler. They prefer just to buy and sell and take some margin in between. And I personally stay away from that totally, because you're never going to beat the Chinese at this, because they're willing to take margins that are 5% or some very ridiculous
So
amount.
if you take the brand and the customer out, and it's just buy sell with a little bit of margin, you're never going to win that game.
They have teams of people right now. I mean, teams of people sitting in a room all day. That's all they do is source products, put it on Amazon, and get reviews. I've been there. I mean, they're my friends, actually, the owners of these places. So, you don't want to play that game, because you're going to lose. And the other thing is, bundling, because, if you bundle something with that Chinese, they're not really used to bundling in China. They don't know what goes with what. My experience is that they don't know. And also, there are a lot of things that Chinese cannot export from China to the United States. So one trick is to bundle something that they cannot export here. Bundle it here. They can't compete.
Gotcha. So maybe like an add-on product that's a much smaller retail price or cost price, but you can actually bundle it on and still make good margin.
Yeah. I mean, if you already have a best-selling product on Amazon, and you have the exact same product with something else, which one are you going to choose? You're going to choose the thing that gives you more value, right?
Yeah.
So you have to think outside of the box and do a lot of research on what Amazon allows and doesn't allow. I spent a lot of time talking to the managers at logistics companies, asking them, what can you export and what can't you export? Because there are a lot of things that they're not allowed to export from China. Once you know what they can export, boom, there you go. If you do focus on those kind of goods, then you don't have to worry about China stuff. They just won't touch it.
Gotcha. Huh. Yeah. Okay. And any other tips or tricks that from the Chinese seller that maybe they're doing that we aren't, or other ways that we could potentially be? Any other?
Let me think. So don't compete on price. Make a unique product, bundle, and find the boss. And then I think if you want to, I think you should learn some Chinese.
Okay.
Okay. Now I know you're laughing, but actually I didn't learn Chinese until I was an adult.
Yeah.
Because I'm a third generation. Okay, so it's doable. And even if you learn a few sentences, right? When you meet the boss, or the owner or manager, whatever it is, and you say it, it may sound bad, but it goes a long way, So actually, I have a few sentences I like to teach today because I used to be a teacher.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, and are you into it?
It's funny. It's funny you say that, but like,
okay,
there's probably money. You're probably saving yourself a bunch of money if you just learn a little bit of Chinese. Because if you say Chinese and you understand the custom and the culture to the boss of a manufacturing company, you're probably going to get a way better price.
Of course, that's how you communicate. You make friends, right?
All right.
They're going to laugh. You're going to laugh, and by the end of the day, it's going to be like, okay, well, can you give me a better price?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know. Can you read this? Because I didn't use pinyin because I don't think you could read it. So everybody, can you read this? What is it? Okay. Everybody repeat after me. 太贵.
太贵.
太贵. What does that mean? Too much. Too expensive. Too expensive. So when you're negotiating and they give a price, that's the first thing you say. 太贵. And you got to use your face. 太贵. You got to make it look as painful. Let me tell you, actually there's a ritual of negotiating already established in China that all Chinese know. So they won't be offended. They won't be, they won't think any poorly of you because everybody does this every day. So if you're doing something like that, they will...
like, oh, you get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you understand. Okay. So after you do that,
Yeah, I can hold the rest of this.
yeah, let me hold that one. Yeah, this one here. Yeah, this one. Yeah. Okay, after you say too expensive, 太贵, then you have to do this one. Everybody repeat after me. 便宜,便宜,便宜点,
便宜点,
便宜,便宜一点.
便宜点.
What does that mean? A little bit cheaper. Can you give me a little bit cheaper? Okay. So first, remember it's 太贵, and then 便宜点. Okay.
Then the same thing, you say the one a little softer than the other one.
Yeah, you have to give some, drama into it. Okay.
Cool.
And the last one is very important. Is this one. Okay. Everybody repeat after me. 一分钱,一分货.
一分货.
One more time. 一分钱,
一分钱,
一分货.
一分货.
You know what that means? You get what you pay for.
That is really Chinese. We can't get it.
Ah, because this is a universal in business, right? So you're negotiating prices. He goes this price. You say, oh, cheaper. He goes down a little bit. You say, this, oh, 太贵, it's too expensive. You're both satisfied. You say, 一分钱,一分货. And he's going to laugh. He's going to say, yes, you get what you pay for. So this is the negotiating that goes on in China. And when you do this, the boss is going to like you. And when it comes down to needing help or terms or new product or some kind of cooperation on molding or anything like that, he's going to remember, oh, this guy came and he actually put some effort, and now I have a friend, so it becomes like now a relationship builds from there.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think, on that whole, you get what you pay for. I think that's the advice that I got at one stage, which is, you're dealing with, humans and a business in another country where they want to do great for you as you want to do great for them. And, instead of just going in there and maybe always negotiating on price and trying to get it cheaper, you maybe go through that ritual, but then you throw in, hey, if we added 5 cents onto this product and I gave you 5 cents more, what else could you do for me?
Yes, yeah.
And they could turn around and be like, wow, you actually want to give me some more money? And, to that point, if you get what you paid for, give them a little bit more money and see ask them what they'll come back with. Maybe they'll come back with something that's so much more amazing than what you would have got.
Exactly.
Being able to compete and have a better product. So, it goes both ways, I think, with any negotiation. Cheaper, yes, but also once you have that established relationship, if I give you more money, what will you do for me?
Right.
So what's your next adventure? Where are you off to? What's happening this year?
So I'm here until the end of Chinese New Year, back to Shenzhen in the end of March, and my new project is I have a network in China, and I'm starting a company that will offer VA services, because I see a lot of sellers using Filipino VAs to do a lot of computer work, managing PPC and research, but there's a lot of headaches in China, and there are not people to help them do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done some research and I've talked to a lot of sellers, and they said, yeah, they're very interested in having a VA who can work with them and be on 24/7 or at least 12 hours calls. They need to communicate and deal with any issue that may come up. Mm-hmm. So I'm putting together the website. It's going to be Ali Ninja, like AliExpress, Alibaba,
mm-hmm.
Ninja.com. And within the next 2 or 3 months, we'll launch. We'll offer the services. We'll do the whole advertising. And then hopefully we can get good sellers with good VAs and be able to have a relationship, so the seller won't need to go to China. They can just use Apple Talk or WeChat or whatever platform they're using, and do everything with somebody in China on the ground who can help them do all of the things that they need to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. I think having someone, it's a virtual assistant, but it's a virtual assistant on the ground in the country where you're trying to do business, which is awesome. Like if you have someone who can speak the language, be able to travel through Shenzhen or whatever province you're sourcing product and have that direct relationship, I think that's amazing. So I know you're going to be there when I'm at the Canton Fair. So you know, and there'll be a bunch of us. So maybe we'll organize a day where we can meet up with you and you can show us around or teach us a bit when we're there. Yeah,
for sure.
No, awesome.
Welcome.
Cool. So so how can they find you? They can just go to Ali Ninja.
Yeah, you could Kris, Kris, Kris with a K at alininja.com, and my WeChat is also my name, Kris with an A in the middle, CHIN. WeChat in China we only use WeChat. We're a little bit more advanced in America because it's cashless. Everybody uses WeChat to pay for things. That's another thing I wanted to mention. You know, people use WeChat and Alipay, which is 支付宝, to pay even suppliers. Yeah. So it's just a matter of just.
Yeah, I met a few people there, and I don't think people carried a wallet for the last 3 years. No. You don't need a wallet. You just have your phone. That's it.
Yeah.
Cabs, groceries, everything. It's
bicycles on the street.
Bicycle, whatever. Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, so thanks, man. We're going to open up for questions now because I'm sure some of you guys have questions around China and you know, Chinese sellers or the Chinese marketplace. So maybe we can just hand that microphone around, and if you guys have any specific questions, we can get Kris to answer. Yeah. Anybody got a question? All right, we'll start at the back and then come towards the front. Yeah, maybe just come up a little bit so you can.
So what are the things that an Amazon seller or a first-time person can do when they're reaching out, and they don't necessarily have the boss's contact, that can add more credibility to themselves or get more attention or command more attention for the product or what they're trying to make?
They can produce as much as you need. You know, they just need to lead time on that, right? So they'll have their, you know, MOQ. The trick is to reduce the MOQ, right? So if their MOQ is 5,000 or 10,000, like, you don't want to spend that much money, right? So you need to think. You be creative. You know, you're like, okay. Usually, I'll tell you the truth. In my opinion, is like the MOQ is based a lot on packaging, because packaging is what costs a lot for them. They can't buy 500 of boxes. No printer is going to do that, cost-wise, right? So you need to find a way to eliminate the packaging issue. Either find somebody to help you find somebody to print a low quantity, and then you can provide the packaging, or buy a lot of package. You know, do the big thing, but only keep some of it in storage in their warehouse, and the factory can, and then only use a certain portion of it. Whatever it is, you know, you got to be creative about that, because you know, they can, if they're already producing a product or a similar product, they probably can produce less, but they don't want to print. You know, they can't have a factory. No printing factory is gonna print, you know, 500 or 1,000.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, and just another point on that, I think that, you know, the common sense part of it, and not everyone has common sense when you're approaching a Chinese factory, is to approach it like you're you know, if you're just starting out and maybe you don't have a full business, approach it like you are a professional, proper business with, you know, letterheads, you know, a company. Be formal in your communication. Show that you, or at least act like you have a bunch of experience and that you've done this before, and you're not just like a new time. And that way, you're obviously going to maybe get through to the boss and be able to place an order, and you won't be just dismissed. So, you know, you've got to definitely come across like an expert in your field, and that you're an experienced seller, even if you potentially aren't. You know, so that's what I would say as well. Do you have any other questions?
Yep.
Okay, so my question is regarding protecting your patent and your product. Because I've had a situation where I have a friend, he produced something that he has patents on, and after the second order, they overproduce. They gave him his order, and then the extra 20-30% overproduction that they did, they sold it in the gray market. And I'm just wondering, how rampant is this practice? Is it really that bad and everybody's doing it, or it just happened to be dealing with a manufacturer that's not ethical? And also, in that light, is there anything that one can do to prevent such things?
Well, it's a lot better than before. It used to be really bad, especially with the bigger names. But they've cracked down in China. If so, the big names like Apple or Samsung or this kind of thing, nobody would touch it anymore because they are enforcing that. But the problem is when you're in the middle, when you're not a big name, you really have no recourse because you're not going to spend all the money and resources to hire lawyers to fight in China. You're just going to write it off. When you say gray market, were they selling it in China or abroad?
They sold it in China.
Okay.
The product ended up in Australia, UK, everywhere else. And
so it can be enforced outside of China easily, right? Yeah. So if they're selling it in UK or in Australia, you just go to whoever's selling it, the department store or eBay, whatever is selling it. They will enforce your patent. But in China, there's nothing you can do about it.
What I'm mostly trying to figure out is that can we somehow stop this thing at the source? Because if they don't infringe on your patent, they're actually making money from you, producing the product for you. You pay for the mold, you pay for the patent. You've done your thing with them, and they produce the product for you.
Right.
And yet they overproduce and sell gray market right under you.
If you have a relationship with the boss, you can go to the boss and say, "Hey, what are you doing? What's going on here?"
And I think that's a key thing. Is and it's kind of what I talked to earlier. And I've had similar friends, and that's happened to them. And I think when you have a really unique product, and it's something that is unique in the marketplace, but it's something that potentially could be, a global seller, you've got to obviously be a lot more careful around who you take those designs to and what kind of relationship you form. So if there is the potential of that, I think that the proper documentation, from friends telling me, ensuring that you have even a Chinese trademark lawyer, or you have the right kind of documentation from that country. Those are steps that it's going to reduce your risk. It's not going to completely get rid of it, but it's going to reduce your risk. And obviously, going over there and potentially meeting with the boss is the right kind of steps to form that relationship. Now, those are ways to reduce it, and depending on the product, you might do all of those or you might do some of those. But I think there's some basic ones that you can do that would, you just, as a businessman, you've seen it 100 times, I'm sure, where you can feel if someone's shady. You get that bad feeling, and it's just not the right person. So you've got to put in those platforms that will allow engagement, so you can feel whether this is a legitimate relationship or not. And I think that's really important.
That's good. I wondered if there is more of an honor system among Chinese themselves. Like, for example, if I were to use Kris as my sourcing agent, and he speaks the language, he's one of them, and maybe he would be talking to the boss, maybe his relationship, or the one that he can create, would perhaps stop them from trying to do something to go behind your back.
Yeah, look.
I wonder if that's something reasonable to.
For sure. And also, if he wants to continue doing business, why would he do that? I'm your customer.
Right.
You start selling that overstock, I'm not going to order from you again. So there's something is not right in that kind of situation. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So you need to just confront the boss and say, hey, we're doing business, and I want to continue doing business, but you can't be selling my. Yeah.
All right, so I have a question. Obviously, meeting the boss and having that relationship with him is key. And I think going to China is definitely something that a lot of us sellers can do to distinguish ourselves and stand out, get the best prices, differentiation, and all that. What kind of actionable steps do you recommend? So if we go to China, we meet with these factories. For the most part, we're dealing with the low-level sales reps, right? How can we make our way to meet the bosses and have that relationship? If they speak only Chinese, how can do we hire a translator? How can we actually form that relationship with the boss
you'll meet the boss. You're a customer. You're coming from United States. Even if you have a small order, they'll make time for you. You'll meet the boss, and you have a translator. And nowadays, a lot of them speak English. So
I mean, it's actually he's dead on. Like when I went to my factories in China, the driver picked me up, drove me an hour and a half from the train station to the to the manufacturer. Drove the whole way, didn't speak English, all that kind of stuff. Got there, met the sales reps and everything. I was like, oh, I want to meet the boss. Where's the boss? And he's like, yeah, it's the guy who picked you up and drove you an hour and a half. Like that's the if you're coming, the boss is coming to pick you up and he's going to look after you. Like that's. And then it happened to me both times, both different factories. The owner of the factory actually picked me up, and it was his privilege to drive me to his factory to show him. So he's on the money with that. Yeah.
You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. All right. Maybe if you got one more question, anybody, we can. One more. Okay, we got two then.
Same exact question that you said.
Yeah, go for it.
So I have a question about, obviously it's ideal to meet the supplier face to face, but if you cannot, and it's just a whole bunch of exchanges of emails back and forth, how do you establish friendly contact there? I struggle with that. We're not talking about what you did last weekend. You're not talking about, fun stuff. We're talking about orders. So how do you sneak in friendliness, or like what do you mean by friendliness?
Well, in that case, if you have somebody who's helping you in China, they can go to the factory and you can do if you have WeChat, you can just do a video call. I just want to say hello. I think your products are excellent. And I want to thank you for working really hard and getting everything on time, and our relationship is going well. And even that little small thing, you put your face out there so the boss knows that next time, okay, that's my customer. She's a very pretty lady from the United States, so I know that we got to do good for her and give her the best quality and the best timing and everything right. So, and then the next time you do have time to go over, they'll give you, guaranteed, they'll give you, AAA first class 5-star treatment. Yeah.
And also on that, you have these messaging and you go back and forth. But if you actually do a voice or a video call, the sales reps and whoever they love practicing their English, and they're a little shy about it, but they also want to practice because they want to get better and better. So the fact that you actually speaking to them and speaking English and being patient with them, they love that. So. Just those kind of subtle things about just having those conversations help a lot.
Yeah. Ask your rep or whatever it is, salesperson, to set up a face-to-face for 5 minutes.
Make a huge difference.
And make the effort to be there on time and do however you're communicating. And you'll see, it'll work.
Yeah, well, I don't have a rep myself, but it's a good suggestion.
Okay. Yeah.
So once we place an order, we go through all that stuff going on. There's obviously a gap from the moment we place the order to the production process, according to the volume they have to process in their factory. What would you recommend to have control of production? How could you have control of production, knowing that you cannot stay for a month in China, for example? Obviously you can hire a rep, but what are the specific tools and what are your?
Well, you're dealing with somebody in China, right? The factory's salesperson, right? So just ask them, can you take a picture of, where we are in the production cycle? Can you take some pictures and send it to me just so I have a
what if
video? Yeah, they'll do it.
videos,
Yeah.
I've done that.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures and stuff, but it's more about touching and having very precise sight, because it's clothing. What I'm doing is clothing. So there's a lot of it's not just oh, it looks good. It's
Yeah.
more about quality control, where you can
Right.
see how stretchable the fabric is.
Right.
If it's if the thread is falling apart.
Right.
Yeah. So.
That's what I mean. It's more specific.
So you need a VA.
No, it's a VA, or there are a lot of third-party inspection sites in China, so you can hire one, and especially if it's a first-time relationship with your manufacturer, make sure you say up front, hey, this is my sample, this is my golden sample, this is what you need to produce, And by the end of the line, I'm going to have a third-party inspection company come in and inspect the garments for these 60 points, and it has to match exactly, otherwise I'm not paying for any of this, you know. And if they understand that and they know that you're serious and you have your checklist and you have everything, the final product is going to match your golden sample. So there's plenty. There's a lot out there and some good ones. So yeah, absolutely. There was one more, and then I think we'll call it quits. Or you still got one, or is it gone? Okay, cool. Okay, guys, thanks for hanging out, and yeah, we'll wrap it up now and just hang out and we can chat. And yeah, thanks for that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kris. And yeah, we'll definitely see you at Canton when we come out for that. And yeah, so the next one is going to be the 21st of March. It's a Wednesday as well. I think the speaker that we do have is a guy who's got this company called the Java Press Company. He's an awesome entrepreneur and seller. He's based in Houston, and he's the way he's been successful on Amazon, and he's created a full-on brand around the coffee culture. And you know, he's a 7-figure seller now, but he's done a great job. So I think we're going to get him out next time, and he's got a podcast and a whole bunch of stuff, so it should be an interesting one. And just to Kris's point, the way that we'll communicate the next one and lock everything down is through the Facebook group, so definitely get onto that. Our goal is to build that up so that we have that community, and then we'll probably put it up in the meetup as well. And we have a big space here, so you know, bring some friends and let's fill the space for next time.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.